Hey guys, and welcome to another Schematics update. This time we want to talk about Mad Tower Tycoon, more specifically our first hands-on Mad Tower Tycoon, and for that I'm joined by Blind. Hey guy.
Hello.
What? Guy?
Hey, guy. I mean, that works. I mean, I'm totally
Hey,
Guy
man.
Fieri now. Welcome to Flavortown.
Oh my god, it's too late for me. First of all, we got code from AdfoTV for the game, so thanks for that. This out of the way, who's AdfoTV?
So AdfoTV Games is a kind of an odd developer, and I don't mean that in a bad way. They started off as a mobile games developer. They started off developing iOS games. One of them that I actually played, oddly enough. Then a couple of years ago, they topped up on Steam with a game called Mad Tycoon, which some people watching this video might be familiar with, because it did quite well for them. And one of the first games I actually streamed, oddly enough, it was like the first couple months I started streaming, it came into early access. It was kind of similar to Game Dev Tycoon, if you've played that, or a Software Inc. type thing. The one odd thing about it was it had a very, I don't have a nice way of putting this, it had a very ugly art style. It looked really weird, but once you kind of got into it, the game itself was very good. It was very well paced, it was very fun to play, it had a lot of interesting mechanics, and it developed really well and eventually came out of early access and is still received awesomely. So AdfoTV Games has gone on to, I guess, make kind of a spiritual sequel. At least it's under the same franchise name, Mad Tower Tycoon, which is kind of a Sim Tower-like game.
It's not an easy game, don't get me wrong, it's not super hard, it's not the Dark Souls of Tycoon games, but the tutorial shows you how to build stuff, and at the end of the tutorial, if you did everything the tutorial asked you to do, you're kinda already bankrupt, or close to being bankrupt, which was very weird to me, honestly. I don't know how you felt.
Yeah, the tutorial is very strange because in tower management games, generally, you have to be pretty specific about what you're going for initially. You have to build a bunch of specific type of rooms and then move on from there to create a larger, more interesting ecosystem to look at. But the tutorial that the game has by default, it basically tells you, okay, place a couple of these rooms, place a couple of these rooms, now place a couple of these rooms, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm out of money. What? I don't think it's necessarily doing that intentionally. I think the tutorial is pretty good, but once you kind of reset it and be a little bit more focused on what you're trying to do, it's not too bad. Although I still find myself running out of money relatively frequently, and in my opinion, that is a good thing because it means that there's stuff to poke, min-max, and learn. I don't think that it's balancing issues necessarily right now. However, it might be. It definitely just feels like I kind of have to think about what I'm doing, which is good. Very, very good.
I agree. For a second, I was thinking when I first played it, okay, is it just badly balanced or is it just me? Looking back at games I played recently in the same genre, they mostly weren't very challenging. While I played a lot of early access games or early in development games and closed betas and stuff, mostly are balanced to let you win. And I wasn't sure if it's on my side because I was like thinking, yeah, you can build whatever you kind of want to build because you can't lose. And then I was bankrupt.
Yeah, the thing about the balancing is, you know, obviously there isn't that many games on PC at least that do the kind of tower building thing. So comparisons are going to come up to, you know, your classic Sim Tower and more recent games like Project High Rise. But Project High Rise, my issue with that game was I always felt bored, especially at the beginning. I would start building and I would just, I always found like I never had any money problems. Like eventually, you know, you'd start to run into issues later on, but Project High Rise, I always found that I was never concerned about money. This game, right off the bat, you're worried about money, and then it starts throwing curveballs at you with things that just randomly show up.
Yeah, silly disasters. Really silly disasters. I've encountered earthquakes, which we talked a little bit before we started recording about earthquakes because I had a couple of them and they were I think the worst one was magnitude 1.9, so nothing happens besides a shaking screen.
I had a 6 point something that knocked down half my offices. They've also got aliens, we've got zombies, we've got dudes in hazmat suits that show up to remove your garbage if you don't have enough garbage disposal units. Like, it's pretty silly. It definitely takes the more, I dare to say it, like early 2000s/90s Tycoon game approach of let's just get wacky, especially with kind of the return of 2 Point Hospital and Theme Hospital recently. I think it's nice to see some Tycoon games kind of taking that more silly approach to things, because for a while there, you know, Tycoon games kind of went away for a good number of years, and recently they've kind of had a resurgence, and at least initially I think the initial resurgence took itself very seriously, right? You got at least City Skylines took itself pretty seriously, and then they released the Disasters expansion. It's nice to see just Tycoons embracing the goofiness like right off the bat, because, you know, game doesn't need to be perfectly serious to be fun or compelling.
Yeah, about Disasters is like you said, we encountered earthquakes, I had alien attacks, and they don't kill your visitors, but they disappear after they got shot by a laser, so I'm honestly unsure if
they've been abducted and they're getting probed.
I'm not sure. Probed.
Then their heads will explode. I don't know.
So in the end they got killed. And then I had a zombie attack, and I'm not sure what happened at the zombie attack, because I just let the game run because there's nothing I can do, and I didn't see any of my guests get bitten and turned into zombies or stuff like that. I'm not sure what happened at the zombie attack.
Here's the thing, right? You're building your tower in San Francisco. That's just an average day in San Francisco. This is nothing out of the ordinary. Those are just the commuters coming home.
You mean the smartphone zombies?
I never felt like there was anything I could actually do specifically to avoid the disasters. This game, of course, is in early access. I don't know if we mentioned that up at the top, but I didn't feel like there was anything you could do about the disasters while they were in progress. Afterwards, there was always the recovery, but it was never I can directly interact with this or assist.
I think it's best if you have a mono-use tower, because if you build 10 offices, you unlock the server room, and from that point on, the service is needed. If you build a certain number of apartments, you will unlock some sort of like doctor's office, and that will be needed as well. These type of specific rooms are very expensive, and I followed the routes, or I followed the guide of the tutorial, and I was sitting there and couldn't afford either, and people got mad at me, hence the name Mad Tower Tycoon, I guess. Yeah, basically I couldn't move forward from that point because people canceled their apartments or their offices, and that happens again and again and again. So the best way for me was to build an office tower only, and then I could afford the server room. So I don't know how you did it.
I didn't unlock the server room because I did a whole bunch of resets, and then I was building housing mostly, so I didn't really go down the office route. I'll need to do that in another playthrough though.
So you had doctor's office then?
It seems like the trees are very similar, just different uses and different animations.
Yeah, it looks like that.
While you're watching this video, you know, you might be noticing this game looks a little weird. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Straight up, it does. Once you're playing it, you get used to it.
Yeah. To me, it does.
We did a trailer analysis video of this with our host, BillyMFMays. It was interesting doing that because I think we talked about the art style a couple times. It was like, oh, this looks muddy. This looks weird. But when you're actually controlling it, it actually feels really good. Everything is very bright and very clear, and it's really easy to see what's going on. And this was kind of goes back to their first PC release, which was Mad Games Tycoon. It was also very similar to that. Like when you were looking at it and not playing it, it looked muddy and kind of difficult to discern what was going on, but when you're actually sitting down and playing it, it feels really good to play.
I totally agree with you, because the look isn't everything.
Building the actual tower itself is very tactile and feels really nice and has a nice sound effect. Like overall, I think the game for an early access release is very polished right now. At least I didn't run into any frame rate issues or anything, so it's really smooth.
Yeah, they definitely know what they are doing. On the tech side and from gameplay side, I think, as well, as far as I played already. Move on to the elephant in the room, basically. Is it like Sim Tower?
So it's been a long time since I've played Sim Tower. And this always comes up whenever a game like this comes out, because I think that, like Sim Golf, Sim Tower is one of those games that never really came back. It was a very popular game when it first came out, and then it just kind of vanished into the ether. And then 20 years later, we have, you know, there's a bunch of phone games that are really trying to do this. I think Project High Rise was the closest. This is different. It doesn't quite go the Project High Rise route where people don't matter, because the issue with Project High Rise was your actual people didn't matter. There was never really any problems with traffic. There was never any like bunching up of people getting stuck at elevators. Really, it was just kind of you built your tower and managed the money side. This feels more like what I remember Sim Tower feeling like. I think it's a combination of the really silly disasters and just the way the elevators work. In the video, you'll see that the elevators are kind of on the outside of the building, which looks weird. It allows you to kind of place elevators anywhere, and they move really slowly. People will actually get super mad if they have to wait for the elevator. I like the way the traffic management works. It feels like getting people around your tower is important. There's a lot of potential here. You know, generally we don't cover games unless we think that there's either potential or something that we need to tell you about. In the case of this one, I think there's potential here. I think this game could be really cool once it gets fleshed out a bit and polished up.
I agree. What I really like, and you kind of already touched on it, is the traffic management. You have stairs and people get mad if they have to use stairs. Then you have elevators in different sizes and speeds, and even you have like elevators for specific type of traffic only, and if they wait too long they get mad. They tend to use the stairs then, and they got even madder.
And then they stop paying rent because they're mad at you.
Yeah, exactly. Or another thing is like you can build shops, and shops need traffic to work properly, otherwise they move and say, yeah, there's not enough customers here, so why having this business in the first place? But if it's too crowded, it's too loud, and they don't like to be next to a restaurant, which also needs traffic, and it's really tricky. And that's a thing that reminds me a lot of Sim Tower, and I like it.
$14.99 in Europe and US, and $16.99 Canadian monies are your regional equivalent. Honestly, I think it's a very fair asking price for what they've got in the game so far. I think that there's a lot of potential here. You know, they've done the early access thing before. They've done it successfully. Obviously, you know, a lot of people don't like to hop into early access because of general concerns about, you know, games not getting finished. I think there's a lot of potential here. I think this game could be really cool, and I'm excited to watch it as it progresses.
I agree. I really like what is there already, and I'm curious to see what they will do with it. I'm really curious, just curious, and for now I think it's a fair price to ask, and you can have quite a lot of fun in there already for that early stage. And as we said, we didn't encounter any frame rate issues or crashes. Obviously they can occur, but they didn't on our side, so it's even in a good technical state, and that's a big plus. Honestly, we covered this game enough for now. We will probably have a look later on when it's fully released. First of all, thanks Blind for joining.
Yeah, no problem. I had a lot of fun playing with this one, actually. It was very chill and relaxing.
Yeah, me too. And thanks a lot to you guys out there watching this video. If you like this video, smash the hit the smash button. You know, whatever button you can find, just hit it. Wow, that's a new thing.
Just like smash it a couple times, grind it up and snort it. It's fine, whatever works.
Yeah, and if you really like this video, you may want to consider doing the extra step over to Coffee to buy our editor a coffee, because he's standing in front of the elevator and is waiting for it way too long and needs coffee to stay up and alive, so he can edit this video and videos to come in the future. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for listening again. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.